choices and their own reasons for those choices. It also helped that I spoke to Ben, and he signed on to the movie around the same time I did, so that was a plus. And then the cast started to really shape together with Gemma and Anthony and everyone who sort of signed on to the movie after that. And I would say that Ben was a huge driving force for this movie to get made. Just him being involved with it, wanting to play the role of Ivan. And I happen to think he's fantastic in the movie. He doesn't always get to play the bad guy. But I'd never been in a movie like this. I loved the character. I thought he was smart. I loved what he stood for, and I loved the dilemma that he has throughout the movie. And you know, it's fun to be the guy who doesn't lose. The most difficult thing, you know, it's funny, when I first read this script, I said, I did this movie in time, where I'm running the whole movie, literally the whole movie, and I read the script and I said, you know, this is going to be great, because I won't have to be too physical. Like, this movie's about a really smart guy and online gambling world, and the next thing I know, you know, there was a whole week where I just got a bag thrown over my head and handcuffed and like, you know, and beat up for like a whole week, and I was like, of course. When you read, you know, those things, when they're written in the script, it just says Richie gets kidnapped. You know, so like, how, you know, so obviously we're not going to show that. Bless you. Obviously we're not going to show that, and of course the director's like, no. So there was one week on the movie where it was physically demanding, to say the least.
Hey JT, I have two questions. First, when you were making the 2020 experience, you said that you were taking a little break from music because you were dedicated to making movies. And suddenly, a few months later, the 2020 experience came out, and now you're releasing the second album from the 2020, and you're also making a tour, a music tour. I'd like to know if that means you're making a little break from movies, and how do you arrange your agenda between movies and music? And the second one is if you're going to have time to visit some places in Rio, and if you had the time, where would you go?
Well, the first question has a bit of a long answer, but I guess I could try to break it down by saying, if I did feel like I had made music in the last 7 years that I thought was great and I wanted everyone to hear, I would put it out. I didn't necessarily, I think I just got really lucky. I gotta tell you, if anyone's interested in working here, if anyone's interested in working in movies, if you can get David Fincher to sign off on you, then you're good to go. I feel like things sort of really changed for me after that, and the projects that lined up after The Social Network, really, they were back to back to back to back, and so the opportunities felt right. And what happens is, because you're using so much of that time, I'm not in the studio making music. There will be I'm going to be on tour for a year, at least, starting at the end of October, so I don't know how I'd make a movie in that time. Unless it was something that worked out where I could play a supporting role in something and they could shoot me in and out in a very short period of time.
Maybe a tour documentary, is that possible?
I'm sorry?
A tour documentary.
A tour documentary? I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. But the second question was, I'm sorry, what was, I've never been to Sao Paulo. I'd like to see it. So.
In Rio.
Okay, all right. I didn't mean to start a whole New York, LA thing.
Yeah, it's like that. It's like that. But I think it's tougher.
Okay, I didn't mean to. You asked a question. I like that. Does a lot of passion in this room. Yeah, I honestly, you know, to really answer the first question you asked, I just go from project to project. At this point, I think I don't want to think about it in a sense of, oh, I'm taking a break from this to do this. Or I like to do both, just comfortably. I'm not gonna push. I'm not pushing an agenda either way. You know, obviously, you know, it takes 7 years from making music. I'm not pushing an agenda. With the 2020 experience, for me, this is a double album. It's just that I didn't want to cut the songs down, and I guess it's one thing to put 10 songs that are 7 to 8 minutes long, but another thing to put 20 songs that are like 7 to 8 minutes long. So I thought it would be interesting to that's why I'm calling it 2 of 2. You know, and it's not part 2. I mean, it is literally all these songs, the March release and the September release. It's all, to me, it's just the 2020 experience. It's not 1 and 2, and I understand you have to put labels on it so you don't know what it is, but all this music was written in May, June of 2012. So all of it was done together in some shape or form, either demoed or, you know, or finished at that time. So it's been hard to actually, I wanted to put the whole thing out at the same time, you know, so it's been hard for me to wait to put the second half out. But here we are, so.
Hi, I'm Michelle from David São Paulo, and your character, he's not...
She's from São Paulo.
Your character is not the classic good guy. He's in the kind of the gray area, and he does some bad things along the way. And I want to know personally, for you, what's the most interesting characteristic of this character, and what did you bring to this character that was different from every other role?
Well, you know, when you talk about this character, that's what I love about him is that he is that moral dilemma. Because you look at him and you say, he seems like he wants to do the right thing, but you know, at the beginning of the movie, the first thing you hear me say is, you know, it doesn't matter what you're doing, you're gambling. You know, if you want to make, I think that's the way Richie looks at the world. And so what I like is, in some ways, it's a little operatic in that way, where you know what the right choice is. I mean, if any of us in this room, if you saw the movie, I would have gotten out of there a long time ago. But I think it's one of studying gambling and how addictive gambling can be. That's one of the main things that I did study for this role. Because at the end of the day, I think Richie is a gambler. It doesn't matter how smart you are. If you know, it's a real addiction for some people. And I think what I've found in studying it is that you get to this place where you only see the potential. You don't see the bottom line. You only see the potential, and I think that's what happens. That's what happens to Richie, is that you get into this hole, and you know you have to gamble in order to get out of it. So that's kind of why I love him, is because he was an archetypal. Was an archetypal hero in that way. Was there another piece of the question that I didn't answer?